Okay. Hello, 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 hello. Woo! Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Victoria Reeves Show featuring our special guest today, DJ Johnny Price. Hi, Johnny.
What's happening, world?
How are you?
I'm good, feeling pretty good, feeling pretty good. Just looking at my records.
You're good?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, let me read my blurb, and we're going to read your intro. We're going to jump right into it. So, welcome to the Victoria Reeves Show, where we have incredible conversations with creators from a kaleidoscope of genres. Our guests let you in on their process, inspiration, momentum, blocks, and vision. Today's guest is Johnny Price. Johnny Price is a turntablist and nightclub DJ with 30 years of experience. Woo woo! Every weekend he spins soul, house, EDM, and hip hop music, inspiring people to dance in bars, nightclubs, and special events all over Chicagoland. He is also a passionate arts educator who teaches DJ skills and music production at Bach 2 Rock in, check it out, y'all, Northbrook, Illinois. Ooh, ooh. Johnny has co-produced Soul Stories Live for the past 3 years with myself, Victoria Reeves, in person and virtual. And his latest iteration is a new show called the Creative Genius Cabaret, which will launch in spring of 2022. Give it up for Johnny Price, everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, hi, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up? What's
What's
up?
up, man?
Thank you for
So,
having me.
thank you for being here. Thank you for being had.
All right.
You're so shy. We'll try to figure this out.
Yeah, it takes a while for me
I
to
know. I've got the water. I've
open
got my
up.
tea.
But
Wait, say it again.
it takes a while for me to open up, to people. I mean,
No, it's really
I'm
kind of sad.
I'm an introvert.
Yeah. So we're just going to jump right in, Johnny. 30 years on stage, performing, entertaining global audiences. Wow, that is a super long time. And your happy place is clearly on stage. Am I right?
Yeah, it is. I'm really
Okay.
really happy to be on stage, to be in the booth, so to speak. Yeah.
Be in the booth. This is when you are in your zone, when you're in your flow, when you're thriving as a creative. And so, our first question here at the Victoria Reeves Show for today is: when did you first realize that you were a performer?
Hmm. I first realized when I was a performer was when I was a kid. I think I was. My mom would probably say this. She could vouch for this. I think when I was like 5 or 6 years old, and me, my brother and I would do like little singing and dancing and drumming and stuff. And there were always mini parties we'd go to, family parties. There was always like dance parties, like me and my cousins, and we'd have dance contests. And I always wanted to be the life of the party. I always wanted to be the person to win the dance contest and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm I'm pretty much linked into my inner child. My mom, she taught me how to dance and stuff, and I wasn't afraid to do all the like we would say back in the days, like women's moves, like the way they shake their butts and hips and stuff like that. Most
Okay.
guys are pretty rigid and stiff, and nowadays they are back. But back then, a lot of guys were like really shaking their tails, and with the
Yes.
soul music and stuff, all the hot stuff that was out. Um, Guys were not afraid to shake their butts and I would say get in with their inner mama.
Hmm. And okay, get in with your inner mama. That should be today's hashtag. Hello. And also, didn't you tell me that like you did a parade and you did drumming and stuff when you were little too?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I think from then on, when I was like
Yeah.
seven until 10,
Okay.
my two brothers and I, along with some neighborhood kids next door, we do makeshift drumming. We were also like those kids who were, we weren't at the downtown, but we were like in our neighborhoods doing like those plastic drums and stuff.
Right.
And we would make them, put them on our shoulder, put a little belt on them, walk down the street in our neighborhood, and you know, and get all the neighbors and shouting out, or if it was good, they were enjoying it, making the dogs bark and stuff. But it was fun, and we were in our own thing, you know.
Making the dogs bark. I
Yeah,
love it.
and also making go-karts and stuff. And when you're taking going to the alley, reaching into the dumpster diving, and getting like the baby carriage wheels, and
Yeah.
then hammering them onto the wood, and making our own go-karts and having the races. We got the idea from, remember the Little Rascals, the Our Gang, when they had those races down the hill and stuff. We got that idea, and me and some neighborhood kids, we would have these battles against the kids from the different blocks, go-kart battles and stuff. And we have one kid pushing, another kid steering with his feet and stuff, or with rope and string. And yeah, it was fun. The wheels would fall off in the mid race. We have to like put them back, and while the race is still going on, and we're racing in the alley and stuff, because that's where we don't see too many cars. And it was fine, man. It was just a big laugh, a lot of stories to tell.
And just to put this in context for those who don't know, Johnny is a Chicago boy / man through and through. Grew up on the south side of Chicago, so these are the neighborhoods that we are referring to. Yes.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I grew up in the Gresham area, like 79th and Green, near 79th and Halsted.
Okay.
High School.
Right.
Calumet High School, would just be like a hop, skip, and a jump from where I live to Calumet High School and St. Leo. Hang out with kids. We take the go-kart races to like the other hoods and stuff, and and test everybody out, and have like these races. We call them the alley races.
The alley races,
yeah,
which sounds super fun.
It was fun.
So, I got you. I love it. And so this show is all about like celebrating the creative process and also DIY, right? So it's like, work with what you have. Start where you are and work with what you have. So I love it. You jumped ahead, because my question was going to be like, how did you use creativity to engage and entertain yourself when you were a child? So you said the go-karts, which is such a fabulous image. We can all visualize you doing that. And did you have any kind of a like safe sanctuary when you were a child? Even it could be a physical place, or it could even be like an experiential place. Like I'll give an example. So we had a house that had a yard with these bushes, and I used to go out there with my sister, and we would make mud pies and decorate them with like lilies of the valley. And I just remember that so vividly, like it was yesterday. That place of creative imagination and play that I could just go to, like no matter what was happening in the rest of my world, like that was my safe spot. So how about you?
My safe spot was the back porch on the south side of Chicago. And it was either on the deck or underneath. And because that's underneath was where we would like tinker up on our go-karts and making the drums and stuff. And we were rehearsing. We were like be on the stoop of the back porch, me and the rest of the neighborhood kids, each kid picking a stoop. We're sitting there and we're drumming, and we're talking about each other. And that's like a place for us to like do the dirty dozens and be like, yeah, man, you can't drum worth the damn, you ain't creative, man. You call that a good mix. You can't mix Kool-Aid, stuff like that.
Okay, and please code switch for us. What does the dirty dozens mean for those who do not know?
Yeah, so the dirty dozens, I mean, I'm sure all my people of color listeners out there, y'all know the dirty dozens out there, the dirty dozens, which means we're talking about each other's mamas, talking about each other, what they're wearing, your shoes, your shoes are on the wrong feet. Why you wearing those mixed max socks? Why you wearing pants with the cuff all the way up? We call them floods. It's like, dang, dude, pull up your socks,
Right.
like that, because you flooding, so we would just start heating up. But then that was our safe space. The back stoop was where we were having our safe space to just like unwind, because when we were like at the front stoop, that's where most people were walking around. People walking by, we have to be silent. Oh, be quiet. If we're making stuff, we're making our go-karts, we can make all the noise we want. We can pound with our hammers and stuff like that, and just get crazy and not care, about how much noise we're making. And also drumming too. We can make noise with our drums and just practice. And yeah, that was the back porch was the safe zone.
And I love this image of like you under the back porch doing your thing, and I remember like with our son, like when he was little, and sometimes we would give him presents, and then he would be more excited by the box that the present came in than the actual present, right? And that creativity and like inventing your own magical space, which I feel like as adults, some of us have lost that, and that's a lot of what I teach in the Creative Tribe Dojo in the courses that I teach, which is like, how do you tap into that magical childlike space inside of yourself where like time is unlimited and your ideas are just flowing, and you feel excited, you feel inspired, and you feel ignited and just happy to be alive regardless of anything else.
Well, yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. I mean, when you take it on the individual level, I mean, my
Mm,
bedroom, going right back into safe zones, my
right.
bedroom, my safe zone. And
Okay.
I remember, and when you mentioned about boxes and stuff, and just
Okay.
putting the toys to the side, that was me in a
Right.
nutshell. Because I mean, I think I have there's like a picture in a photo album of me just holding a box, uh, and
Nice.
without any regards to the Lincoln logs that were in that
Inside
box.
there.
I
Right.
used I used to take that box and cut it up because I was a real, and I still am. I'm a huge Godzilla fan, and so what I would do is take the pieces of the box and cut up, and then open up pieces of it and create like a mouth, and then cut the sides and create like little claws and stuff, and cut like the one side, and then create legs, right? And then staple a long, the rest of the pieces stapled together and create a tail. And I would have my Godzilla, and then I would take my Legos that I made. I create buildings and have Godzilla is coming down and knocking down. I would build like monsters, opponents for Godzilla to fight.
Okay.
And I was just like in there making these sounds, in the music, and I'm in there, and, mama's in the back. What you doing back there? Nothing. But then, when it's quiet, I go right back into my, and then, and that was when I made like I felt sometimes that I could like write those movies.
Yeah, I hear that. I feel like you were in your house when you were little. I was in my house, and when I was little, and we could have been friends. I used to sing to like the musicals, back when we had a record player, and then I would like memorize all the lyrics to all the musicals, and be like dancing around the living room floor with like the orange shag carpet, and like think about the sun, Pippin, and then like do my whole show for myself.
My song was my song what was Harvest for the World by the Isley Brothers. All
Uh-oh.
things together, everyone's us, and then I would get off into that, and then I would have the stereo on, and I would
Woo!
play like those LPs, those 45s, right?
Right,
And
right.
as opposed to like you could put stuff on the turntables, we had like the turntables where you put multi records on there, and it's like it would track down from the next
Yeah,
one, right?
yeah,
And so I
yeah.
would, my songs would be the Isley Brothers song "Harvest for the World." I'll play my Al Green,
Okay.
and I would play my Curtis Mayfield "Moving On Up," stuff like that, moving up, and just whatever else I was digging, War,
Oh,
and
war.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I was all up on top of like
Wait a
the.
minute.
My point is, yeah, I would be the world is a ghetto, and I would be singing,
Right, right.
and getting into the music and stuff. And I remember when
Yeah.
when I started, I would pull the record back and forth. I would ear, and I was, man, that's cool. And I would I think that was my first, without even knowing it, that was my first experience into actually like manipulating a record,
Wow.
pull it
Back
back
in the day.
and spin it back. But that was when I was like that was when I was like 7, 8 years old, and I would,
Fascinating. Yeah.
and then my mom, father, they would be all upset. Hey, don't you be scratching them records in there, boy. Okay.
Little did she know. Like, wipe it off, wipe it off.
Right, exactly. Oh yeah.
And we are going to delve deeply and immersively into scratching, and I see you got orange juice in there, into scratching and mixing and all of that wonderful detail of your future and present iteration. However, before we jump into that, I do have one more question for you, which is this. Many performing artists, such as yourself, also express themselves through different genres. So did you also do, like, theater, dance, music, or other stuff coming up, middle school, high school?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh,
My first introduction into the performing arts
right, right, right.
was when I was in middle school, and basically I did a dancing routine with
Mm.
a fellow classmate. Her name was Mia. I still remember Mia Phillips, and she was an aspiring tap dancer in the school, and I really liked tap dancing because I was a real big fan of Fred Astaire and Gene Rogers and stuff, and always watched them. And I was like, I always used to get so jealous of the Our Gang, Little Rascals kids when they were doing like those dance routines. I was like, man, I want to do that,
Right.
So I would be up in the house practicing dance routines, and then when there was like a performance with dancing, I said, hey, I can dance, right? And I totally faked it, but I must have faked it well, because from watching all of these Our Gang and Little Rascals and Fred Astaire and Gene Rogers, I was just working on my tap skills, and I was matching up with Mia, and we did a routine together.
Wait a minute, but you didn't have tap shoes, right? You just had, like, what do you have, Converse on, or
I had church shoes on, and back in the
Wait,
day,
what was it? What was it?
church shoes. Back in the days, we called it. I had Stacey Adams, and man, hey, check this out. I had Stacey Adams, and I put like a bunch of staples on the bottom of the heel,
Nice.
and of the toe,
To
and
get
so,
that sound.
iteration of creativity. So I stapled in and put my finger in there and like bent it, and then
Okay.
I had one of my uncles come in. I said, because I was stabbing myself in the toe, because the staple went right through, right? And so my uncle, who was very strong, one of my older uncles, very strong, he went in there, like really pushed it down and broke it. And so I had staples. I had staples and taps. And so I had makeshift taps. And so
This is homemade tap food, guys.
but I made noise. It made them Stacey's. They had the big fellas. Y'all remember the big heel in the back, right? Yeah. It was like a half an inch, and you were that's what we call them. We call them Stax shoes.
Right.
Stacey Adams, right?
I'm like people in Flossmoor were wearing Stacks. Okay, they weren't.
Y'all know what I'm talking about. But anyway,
I mean, I don't know, but I can visualize.
But I was able to make noise, and I was able to do some tap sounds, just like when Mia, she had real tap shoes, right?
She had actual tap shoes. Okay.
And then she did a thing. She did. I said, her taps were louder than mine because I had a bunch of staples in them,
Yeah, no,
kids heard it and they liked it. I was just like, and kids were laughing and I was laughing. We were having fun. She did her thing, and the teacher was cool because she was thinking, all right, I think I'll work with that because this should be fun. This to get the kids, into it.
Get the kids moving, get the kids doing stuff. Well, and I hear you. So, and I love that you're saying this because really this is what we're talking about, right? It's like, what is creativity? But, I love to use this idea of like creating our way out of a corner, right? And if you are truly a creative person, as you definitely are, like you will be able to visualize a solution where no solution currently exists. And to me, this is the essence of creativity, right? That's why it's like it should be a life skill along with like, brushing your teeth, eating 3 hots a day and, like knowing your manners and all these things. I love this. Okay, so now we'll segue into one of my earliest images of when you and I first met many, many moons ago, and you were in your father's house, and we went down we were living in your dad's house, and in Evanston, out north of Chicago, for people that are in other states and countries watching this right now. And you were in your dad's house in the basement, and you had set up this little DJ system for yourself, and you had like a light bulb hanging down, and then you had a realistic Radio Shack mixer. And I'm trying to remember, did you have one turntable or two? Wait, you can tell me in a second. And then here's my question, okay? So this is pre YouTube, y'all. This is like what, 1993?
Yeah, this was 1993, 1992. Yeah,
When we
yeah.
first met, okay? So this is pre-YouTube, right? So it's not like, or it's pre-Skillshare. It's not like you could like hop online and be like watching videos of teaching yourself how to DJ, but you were teaching yourself how to DJ with this very basic equipment. And so my question is this: how did you teach yourself? How did you learn? And what was your process?
Well, my process was first listen to build up confidence, right? Just
Okay.
basically learning how to play a vinyl record and put it on a turntable
Mm,
and to actually know, the equipment first. Know that and then understand the functionality of the equipment. I
okay.
had, yeah, as you mentioned, I had that realistic mixer and the crossfaders, like as opposed to most crossfaders in today's mixers, like in this mixer that we have over here, the crossfaders now are really, 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 light. They have less stress on them. But back then,
Mm,
crossfaders were pretty stressful. You know what it means? What I mean by stressful, which means it was hard to move back and forth, and you couldn't like touch them and make them move with your fingers. You
mm.
had to really, really put in the wrist or elbow grease. So,
Okay. Sorry.
um,
Can you just explain what a crossfader is to somebody who has no idea? You got two turntables.
right, right. So you got two turns, and I got my
Oh,
little controller right here,
a
and
teacher. A
yeah,
teacher.
yeah. This is a crossfader. A crossfader basically is the equipment that's used to guide, like steering wheel, if you will,
Hmm,
the
hmm.
music that's playing on whichever side. Like this is on my side. This is the left turntable,
Yeah,
um, and this is the right turntable. If I turn this up and down volume up, you can hear all the information and the samples and music that's coming out of this side. With the crossfader over here, you even if I turn this up and I played something here, you can't hear anything.
I got it.
Crossfader has to move over here in order for you to hear this. If I have it in the middle, you can hear both. If
Mm.
I bring both volumes up here on the mixer, both of them up, you'll hear both, right? So you
Okay.
don't want to hear both. You want to just hear from one source.
Okay. So I love this visual aid. So to put it in simple layman's terms, I'm in a nightclub. I hear one song, and then all of a sudden I hear another song. So the DJ is playing the first song, and he or she is queuing up the second song on their turntables or their Serato, which we're going to get into later, or whatever equipment they're playing, and they're crossfading over to the second song by using their crossfader and turning up the volume on the second turntable. Correct?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Bye.
And a quick start. And so
Well, thank you
and
very much. I
so
appreciate
I'm
that.
playing music here on one side, and then I'm using my headphones, and so my headphones are located in the yeah, right here in right here in the where I have my finger at. That's
Yeah,
my
the audio port, right.
yeah. So my headphone jack is there, and then I set my volumes, my headphone volumes accordingly, right here,
Mm-hmm.
right there on this knob, right there, right. And so basically, so I can be able to hear on my headphones, and without the crowd hearing the music coming out of the other side. And so,
Right.
and so in that way, once I have it ready, and I said, yeah, I'm ready to go, and then I with timing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Timing and knowledge of how to know your pitch controls, or the tempo of your music. I
Mm.
I bring my crossfader to the middle,
Okay.
and I bring the up and down fader halfway because you don't want to be too intrusive with the music,
Like
right?
with the
Right.
second song, right.
And then I start the record right there. Like if I have the downbeat, the boom, 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 boom. I have
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that there's a downbeat here, boom, 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 boom. And whatever downbeat goes on from this side, I have to match the downbeat. So that's what I mean by timing.
Mm-hmm.
Downbeat comes in, or 1 2 1 2 1 2, and start playing it.
On
Then
the
as
other
I'm playing the music, I'm bringing the crossfader up,
Mm.
And depending on how many beats I know that the intro of that song has, I
Mm.
play during the number of beats in that intro. And then at the end, I would say, like, say if it's 32 beats and I'm
Mm.
letting the mix go for 32 beats, I bring the crossfader out on beat number
To the other side.
beat number
Okay.
2, 3.
2 and 3. I love it. I love it. I love it. And Johnny just fast forwarded 30 years, y'all, from a turntable, okay, and a realistic Radio Shack mixer to this is a Serato,
This is
correct?
the controller. This is
This is
a
the
Pioneer
controller.
DJ SB3 controller. Now it's very compact. You can
Hmm.
put it in your bag. It's basically like two turntables, without having to carry two turntables. Two
Got it.
turn.
And super simply, and then we're gonna jump to another question because I have a lot of stuff I want to ask you about. But super simply, this is connecting to your computer, which has Serato, which has how many songs did you tell me earlier today you have right now?
Yeah, I mean, looking back at it right now, so Serato, and I'm already like on the screen right now, just basically just to look. Can you
Yeah.
see? Can you see me? Can you still see me?
Oh, we can see you. Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, good. I'm looking on here right now, and I have over 20,249 tracks right now.
Okay, so brief commercial. If anybody watching this is thinking, my God, Johnny's an experienced DJ and I'd love to have him come play at my party, my event, my nightclub, or my bar, but I'm not sure if he has the songs that I like, just repeat that number back to us again 22,000.
Yeah, I said 20. Yeah, I said 20,249.
Yeah, that's insane. So the point is, and thank you for
Counting.
showing us the equipment and counting. So the point is that going from the days of carrying physical crates with vinyl in them and only being able to play those songs to yeah, I know you can put your thing down now
Okay.
if you want to. I mean, I'm just saying because I'm gonna jump to another piece here. So going from the days of carrying crates with vinyl, right, to now to just this unlimited access to not only the songs that you have in your Serato, which again for lay people is sort of like the memory, the access memory, of your system that you can play at any time, but you also have, tell us a little bit about the streaming services that you have access to in a live format so that if someone comes up and they're like, hey, do you have the blah, 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 you can access it.
Well, the streaming service is basically like, so you can be able to access the music, enables you can be able to access music, whatever song. I mean, back in the days,
Mm.
we had to buy this music,
Right.
and physically, and we had to have this music physically, and and in most parties,
Mm.
you never know where you're going. It's very spontaneous. You never know where you're gonna go, what kind of taste,
Right.
we're gonna have. So someone could walk up to you and just totally ask you, for a song that you totally did not buy, right?
Right.
Streaming services enable you. This is pretty much borrowed music, if you will, and but
But
for
you're
that,
paying for the streaming services, so you actually do have access to the rights of playing that music
right.
at
I
the
mean,
time.
most of the music you have access to playing it, but
Yeah.
you can't put it into your local files or what have you.
Okay. Okay. Just live, just
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. So, but it's really useful. So you can be able to just type up the music. Once you go into the streaming service, you can just
Mhm.
type up that music and
Mm.
it'll come up because once you're in that streaming service,
Right.
Serato basically is an app that enables DJs to access their music and play it on their laptops.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
it's the industry standard application,
Right.
that
Right.
DJs are using as an alternative to playing actual what we used to call, or we still call, analog vinyl.
Exactly.
Real
Exactly.
vinyl records.
So actually, keep that vinyl there for a second because now I want to jump into turntablism. Okay. So here, let me just segue. And also for the people that are watching, if you do have any questions for Johnny or myself, please feel free to type them in the chat, and we will definitely answer them and talk about them. And if you're just tuning in, this is the Victoria Reeves Show, where we interview creatives from all different genres about their process, their inspiration, their blocks, their momentum. Like this is I like to call this show like the how I built this of creativity. So it's like we see all these things, like we see the final product, and we see the you know, like the finished piece of whatever it is that respective creatives do. In your case, like a performance, but how does it work? How do we break it down? What are the fundamentals? This is what I'm really interested in exploring here, because this is why you are so incredible, and all of the guests that are on my show are so incredible, because you have this massive talent and this gift and this ability to mix together and remix sounds, images, sound bites, audio clips, beats, etc., into completely new and reinvented forms. So we will now merge into, she's like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's right. That's what I'm talking about. So now we will merge into turntablism, which is not one of your other amazing gifts. And for those people who don't know, this is really what we were just talking about. I'm going to have Johnny elaborate here, but turntablist DJs, it's a specific art form where they blend together like funky beats, audio clips, musical riffs, you know, sometimes people's voices, all different stuff, to create an all new and very creative mix. Okay. And so my first question for you about turntablism is, how do you choose the beats or the audio drops that you use to create a unique turntablism routine?
Everything is trial and error. Everything is unplanned, right? So, you know, the DJ in actual shows make it look like it's something that just came on the fly, right?
Spontaneous, right?
So yeah, it's very spontaneous. But you know, as in everything, it's all practice. You know, we spend like a, you know, and I mean meaning we DJs,
DJ.
turntablists, are spending hours, you know, in our labs. This is what I call my lab, and spend all this time basically doing trial and error. You know, figuring out if this song or these beats go really well with this other beat. The difference between turntablism is basically a combination of scratching and beat juggling, and also mixing records or blending records together with turntables.
Right.
But when we think about turntablism, we're thinking about the two elements, which is scratching and beat juggling. And beat juggling is basically on the fly reproducing previously recorded track or previous recorded tracks.
Right. Right. And sort of like almost like a vegetable soup of audio clips, right? It's like you're like, I got carrots, I got onions, I got garlic. I'm gonna mix all this together and see what happens. But as you're saying, it's not spontaneous, and that I think is the misinformation or whatever, the misinterpretation that people might have, like, oh, he's just up there hanging out. But in actuality, for example, when you create a 6-minute routine for the DMC, which we're going to jump into right now in a second, like how many songs are usually in a 6-minute routine, and how do you choose those particular pieces? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Well, it varies. I mean, I'm glad you asked me to keep my vinyls up here. Like if I find like a record, you know, back in the days, we used to mark our records with sticky tape, you know, and so I would put in the sticky tape here, which would be in front. This part right here would be in front of the needle, and that's where the sound that we want to use, right? So I drop a needle right on the round portion, the front, which where my finger is, the front of the round portion of the record. That's where the sound that I wanted, the needle would pretty much be guided onto that sound sample. And instead of using your headphones to have to find that beat, you know, you're already there. So I've already practiced in advance. I rehearsed. I found this is the beat, the sound that I want, and so then I mark it, put a sticky tape on it. So then, as soon as I take one record off and put the other record into the turntable, I drop the needle on. It is guided right onto the front part of the sticky tape, and then I play my sound. This could be a kick, where the other one could be lined up on the snare,
Okay.
And I can do a kick on one record, a different record, and I can have a snare on the other record, and then be like boom, kick, snare. And I'm by spinning the record backwards and pulling it back, watching where my sticky tape is. That's my mark, tells me this is where my sound is. I don't have to use my headphones. And I'm DJing on site, so I'm just looking. You notice DJs are looking at records. When they're looking down at both sides, they're looking at their actual marks.
At their cue points, right? Their marks, which are those sticky circles, because you're not using headphones. Because in a live performance, which is the DMC, which we're going to talk about next,
or various other DJ battles,
or other DJ battles, yes. You're performing live, and there is that performative element, right? It's creative, it's fun, it's interactive. You're kind of talking to the crowd through your music, through your gestures, through your actions. People can definitely see a lot of your DMC videos on YouTube, correct?
Yeah, you can go to my YouTube and look up JP Guns, P Guns, and you can also say DMC, and then you'll see the different times of I'm doing scratching, competition videos, showcase videos where I'm either rocking parties or doing like a DJ turntablist routine.
Right. So the difference, again, just to clarify for people that are new to all this, is that like a DMC routine is maybe a 6-minute, very curated and rehearsed routine that you practice for however many hours or weeks. It would be amazing to quantify, and then perform at a competition, which is judged. And so you are a DMC USA finalist, which means that you beat out all these regional DJs, correct? And then went to the national competition. Yes.
Yeah, back in the days. I mean, when I first discovered it in 2001, I was just a club mix DJ, just rocking parties. But then when in 2001 went to my first turntable DJ competition, and I was just pretty much number one. I was humbled, and then because every local DJ always wants to feel like that time they always want to feel like they're the main party rockers and their best in their local zones. But then when I went over there, I was just like totally humbled, and I was just like, man, these brothers got skills. I'm seeing people doing stuff. How's he doing that? How's he hitting the record and hitting the crossfader with his back and with his belly or with his mouth and making, and still the sounds, it doesn't sound like noise. It sounds like music, and then hearing these amazing scratch sounds that come out, and basically I thought of myself as a scratch DJ, but my sounds at that time were like so basic, but then when I'm hearing these amazing sounds, I was just like, you can do that with a turntable, with a mixer, and so I was like, I was hooked, and then I just started practicing and getting all of the DMC is an acronym for Disco Mix Club, and it's one of the most popular DJ competitions in the world.
Right.
Station in London. It started in 1984. Wow. And from then on, it just carried on. The first American who won a DMC World Battle was a DJ by the name of DJ Cheese in 1986, and he was the first one who introduced scratching in his set.
Okay.
And basically, I know it sounds funny. His name.
Oh, DJ Cheese, I like it.
I mean, and a lot of DJs, they come up with a lot of funny names.
They come up with some funny names, yeah.
So, I mean, but anyway, that's what the DMC was all about. It's something basically that just started, that brought in something more than just playing a record on a turntable. It helped DJs to bring in the musicianship
Mm.
into turntables, and now the turntable is now an instrument. DJs are doing more
It is
stuff than just just press and play,
right.
in their on their respective turntables, and I think it's a thing.
I got you. And let's put a shout out to the people that are watching today. We are very happy to have you here on the Victoria Reeves Show. We are learning all about DJing today and turntablism, beat matching, what else? I don't know. Musical genres, working with different crowds, the way that we can take whatever we have right now and be crazy creative with it and take it to the next level. And I would like to say that all of us have our passion and our what I like to call our right livelihood. And I didn't make that term up. It's been around since the beginning of Buddhism, actually, which is like that which we are supposed to do here on the planet, and the thing that inspires us and gives us joy. And like every time we, step up to do that, we have this very, very oh gosh, I would say like this unlimited excitement about the possibilities, right? And that is what I see when I see you perform, when I hear you talk about DJing. This is definitely your right livelihood. This is definitely your path. This is definitely the thing that has inspired you and will continue to inspire you for the rest of your life. I would say that. As a creative myself, I know that the process is not always easy. And, sometimes, especially when we're trying to get our work out into the world and to be seen for our creative gifts, that can be challenging. So I would love for you to share with us what are some of the blocks that you've experienced on your creative journey, and how do you move through them?
Well, some of the blocks in like in most creative situations, you always feel like somebody else been there, done that, which is
Um,
part of um, that inferior or imposter syndrome,
mhm,
and
mhm.
like I mean, one of the main things in like say for example, like let's go back into turntablism, and
Okay.
back in the days in turntablism, I mean, one of the biggest the biggest rules is nowadays and even back then, don't videotape a person's routine, because
Oh,
because
right.
you would be biting, biting, which means you're copying someone's creativity,
Mm,
piece for piece, right?
mm,
So one of the biggest things, and just like the way hip hop used to be back in the days of like in the 80s and early 90s, you can't bite that person's style because you would be ostracized within the hip hop community. Same thing within the DJ community. You at the time you can't like copy a person's turntablism routine and then play it out, practice it and then play it out to other people, and because that
So is
person
one is okay. Sorry,
that person made it theirs. You know what I'm saying? So
I got you.
yeah, I
So
mean,
it is one of the blocks to your creativity that you are afraid of somebody copying you.
one of the blocks is, well, somebody copy me or somebody thinking that I'm going to copy them. You know what
Okay.
I'm saying? And then basically wondering if, if you have to, you question your own creativity. You say, hey, I wonder, I came up with this, and you're wondering if somebody else already came up with it. It seems so
Mm,
easy. Maybe somebody else already know this, and now you pretty much stifled yourself, and now
mm,
you're not going to put your work out. You know what I'm saying? Or
mm,
you do these amazing routines, or you come up with this with this amazing music. So back in the days of the 80s and 90s, I told you before, we bought our music. We went to record stores and we bought our music and stuff, and then we play our music and we are in the labs practicing. I'm practicing, but then I'm thinking, should I like this style of music? You
mm,
know, and if I like this style of music, is it outdated, or does somebody else like it, or people are not gonna think that it's cool or what have you? So then what could be potentially some amazing music that you could put out there.
you could be
You
great, right?
don't get a chance to put it out there. You don't have, because you're having that conflict, that infamous conflict of man versus himself,
Mm,
and you know, and you're just you're stagnant.
right,
So
right, right.
then you end up like, let's say you end up just playing like popular music that everybody likes, right? But you don't have the gall or wherewithal to, confidence in yourself, into your own let's say musical autonomy, to pick that hot song, that new song that's on.
Branch out, right? Just into something different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. That's like a big block. It's usually, I call it, like I mentioned before, it's the infamous conflict of man versus himself. You've got to
mm-hmm.
get past that one rung in order to reach the next level, and say whatever I play is gonna be dope. Whatever I play is gonna be great. Whatever I play is gonna be awesome. If I like it and I trust I trust my musical sensibilities, go with it. Get it.
Right,
Don't.
exactly. Well, and trusting our own intuition, right? Trusting our own exploration, our own past experience, right? Which is another thing too. As a creative path coach, and I work with clients, and they're having a block or a period where they're just like, yeah, I don't really know if I can move forward on this project, right? Because really, it's all the same, right? Whatever project it is, and I like to say, like, well, take a piece of paper, stick it up on the wall, and write like 30 or 40 accomplishments that you already have done with your own creative process, right? So that you can see yourself and be like, wow, I did write that piece, or I did create that song, or I did choreograph that dance, or I did bake that cake, or it could be anything, right? It could be any form. I did bake that cake, and people loved it, so the next time when I go in the kitchen and I start mixing stuff together, like, I will trust myself to do to just take it from wherever it is, and make something magical. So another idea, and I don't know if you've heard this before, but I think it's actually pretty amazing, from Elizabeth Gilbert in a book called The Big Magic, which she wrote about creativity. And her idea was like, there are these creative ideas, and they're kind of floating around in the universe, and they're waiting for a place to come out. So it's sort of like, if you don't create that mix is still out there, and like somebody else is going to like find it, and it's going to be channeled like through their expression, which I think is kind of a wild idea, right? And to go back to what you had said, like man versus himself, there is another thought that like there are only 5 stories that have already been told, right? And that we're all basically just retelling them over and over in different ways. On the other hand, to me, that's just like, okay, fantastic. I mean, do the math. That means there are millions of possible combinations that have not yet been done. Okay, so what are we going to say? We have a few more minutes. Oh, teaching. Well, you've already been teaching us today, which has been fabulous. I love it. I love that you're like showing us the equipment. It's just, it's magic. You teach at Bach to Rock. You teach DJ skills, and you teach music production to kids, to adults, right? And my question with working with kids was, because this is some pretty technical stuff, y'all. Like, look behind him. He's got a lot of gear there. And what, your youngest kid is like, what, 10 years old that you teach?
Yeah, I got a young kid that's 9 years old.
9 years old. Okay. That's pretty young. So the question is, how do you break something that's like pretty complex and technical down into little bite-sized pieces that are achievable? Because it's all about self-esteem, especially with kids, right? If they do it and they feel good, then they'll keep trying.
Right.
So how do give us like a couple sentence answer on that? Like, how do you break it down into small pieces?
Make it fun. Everything has to be fun. I mean, just think about just think about yourself. If it's not engaging enough, you're going to look off into space. Even, we adults have a tendency of just, glossing off. So make it fun. I mean, the first thing I do, you walk in with a little kid, scratching. I have 2 setups. One setup with the DJ controller, right? That's hooked up to the laptop, which also, is dialed into some of their music. And then I have the turntable set up, which I have 2 scratch vinyls already set up there on both turntables. And then I lock in a beat that I play from an app that's on my phone. That's called Table Beats. Beats. Yeah, Table Beats. Basically, it's an app, and just for just to let people know, you can play this app, and you'll have like over 700 scratches. And this is the app right here. It's called It's called Table Beats. And, yeah,
Johnny's a teacher, y'all. Can you tell? Now, Johnny, teacher Johnny, is that a free app?
it's a free app,
Oh my
and
God.
it's so incredible. You can
I love
basically,
it.
and once you plug this into your mixer, your wherever your source is sound, into the
Right.
auxiliary of the sound, and press play, and you got like beats galore, and you have over 700 beats. You can control the speed. I'm gonna make it slow.
Right.
I can make it fast,
Man, look at that.
right? And put it right back to the middle. I can pick a different beat if I want to use,
Right.
different
Right.
beats. Right. So it's called Table Beats. I hook
Wow.
that in, make the kid, the kid is having fun. I say, I tell them what scratches to do. And we
Sure.
do, I say, okay, match the scratch and keep it simple. You don't want to go over their heads, right? So I would do like a baby scratch, which is basically opening up the crossfader, keeping it in the middle, bringing the volume levels up, and then just scratching on the turntable
Just to
without touching the crossfader. And the music is going, and I do something, kippy, and they do the same thing, kippy,
and they copy you.
kippy.
So you start small, you familiarize them with the equipment, you
Right.
give them an achievable goal, which is which I like to call a micro movement in my coaching practice, right? So it's like you have a micro movement that kind of kicks the can further down the road, which is like, learn the equipment, learn how to do maybe one scratch, go home, practice that scratch, come back a week later and add to that and build to it step by step. And I love the fact that you were talking about the free apps because, again, anybody who's familiar with the Chicago area knows that Northbrook is a pretty wealthy community where your school is, and those children and their parents, God love them, they can afford to buy whatever equipment they need, et cetera, et cetera. But you've also taught for street level here in the Chicago area, which is young people between like 16 and 24 from the south and west sides of Chicago who may or may not have access to that level of equipment. And the fact that they can download that app that you said and other apps that I know you've worked with on their laptop or whatever they have access to is beautiful, right?
Yeah, I mean, like for example, not just the table beats. There's also the like different various DJ apps that people could use in their when they're going through and figuring out what music they want to use. So I mean, there are just like so many apps, and I'm just looking at my phone just to see what apps.
Too many to mention in an hour show.
Too many to mention. There's Cross DJ.
Cross DJ.
Yeah, Cross DJ. There's another one that's called like DJ,
Just DJ.
just DJ.
Right.
And with these apps, basically you're like, for example, this is the DJ app. And with the DJ app, basically you're putting on the mixer and you're just setting up whatever music that's on your phone, so to speak. You can
mix it together.
Yeah, you can mix it together. So I'm sorry, I'm just trying to.
I know. Well, let's try to bring Johnny back from his phone, which could be hard because there's so many apps on there. Well, we are going to get ready to wrap up here in a second. If people are interested in working with you at Bach to Rock, it is BACH number 2 ROCK. You can search it in Northbrook, but they actually have schools all over. But Johnny is at the Northbrook location, and also. They can definitely check you out at your website, which is jpgunnz, GUNNZ.com. Yes, I do know this. And your webs and your email, which is superdjjohnnyprice@gmail.com. We will put links to all this in the show notes. So here is the question, Mr. Johnny Price. Finally, what is one piece of advice that you would like to give to a young DJ who is just starting out?
Oh, a good piece of advice that I could give to a DJ is just starting out. Don't be afraid to embark on your dreams. Don't be afraid to embark on your interests. If you like whatever music you like, there's always a circle of people, who will appreciate that music. If you have the let's say if you have the wherewithal and the means, which not really expensive, like for example, like a young DJ, like in there, like a high school kid, and one of my students has a controller like this. This is the Pioneer Serato SB3 DJ controller, and right now it's under $300.
Oh, that's really good to know. And
And
also, one of the places that you do buy a lot of your equipment is Guitar Center, correct?
yeah, at Guitar Center.
Yeah, so they could go there and ask those guys who are so knowledgeable, like, "Hi, I have this much money, and I just want to get started. So, what could I buy to start out?"
Go to the pro shop at Guitar Center. Very
Yeah,
helpful people who can
yeah.
help you, select music, according to your budget. Serato DJ Pro is the app that most DJs are using that have, DJs are playing out of allow DJs to play out of their laptop, playing all the MP3s. It's pretty affordable.
Mm.
So we're paying like 20, 19.95 a month, 29.95 a month,
Oh,
depending.
for the online streaming service. Yeah, yeah, I think so.
So, I mean, it's basically, it will allow you to have, like I said, over 20,000 pieces of music, depending on
Yeah, that's
how much space is in in the hard drives of your laptops. I,
which that's hours of family fun and entertainment. COVID, no COVID, 3 degrees out or 90 degrees out. You set up your little world. You're pretty much ready to go. So, well, listen, Johnny Price, I want to thank you very much for being a guest on the Victoria Reeves Show. This was fabulous having you on here. You are a wealth of wisdom and inspiration about reinvention, about starting where you are, DIY creativity, reaching people of all different backgrounds, and continuing to pursue your art no matter what. Come rain, come snow. He is the postal worker of DJing. Johnny Price, drop the mic. He is fabulous. And if you guys would like to find out more information about upcoming shows and or Creative Tribe Dojo classes, or find out more about working with me, about pursuing your own personal vision and the joy of your life that's going to keep you inspired on the regular, check me out at creativetribedojo.com or here on our Facebook. And tune in next week. We'll be posting in the next few days about our upcoming guest to learn more about another fantastic creative genre that you may or may not already know about. Thanks a lot, Johnny, for being on the show. Have a great weekend.
It was fun. It was great talking to people. I hope everyone enjoyed the show. And yeah. Can I give a shameless plug?
100%.
Shameless plug. You can check me out over at Paradise Park every Friday night, which is located on North Avenue. It's in Wicker Park, to be exact. 1319, yeah, in Chicago, of course. And basically that I'm just looking at the oh yeah, I have it right here. Yeah, check me out at also Happy Camper, which is located on Saturday, this Saturday, which is the 15th coming up, and that's located at 1209 North Wells. Happy Camper, that's this Saturday, and this Friday, Paradise Park, which is located at the I'm looking at this right now. Paradise Park was located at 1913 West North Avenue.
Or just go to Johnny's Facebook page, which is
go to my Facebook page, which is Johnny Price. Facebook.com/Johnny Price.
There you go. And he'd be mentioning that stuff all the time. You can see where he's at. He's all over Chicago every weekend. The man is on fire. Go and check him out and see for yourself what all the stuff that we're talking about is like in a live format, and get your dance on. Bring your mask and have some fun.
Bring your mask and have some fun. They will enforce masking.
They will enforce it.
Mask up, world.
Mask up and get your groove on.
Mask up, get your groove on. These places also have food, lots of pizza, pasta, and things like that. Pizza, pasta, beats, dancing, have fun, wear your mask. social distance and be safe. There's lots of space in these places. It's
There is.
gonna be a stone group.
It's going to be a stone group. Okay, it's on like a pot of neck bones. Love you. Lots of love. Thanks for coming on the show.
And we're down
Mwah.
to black ties.
There we go. Peace out. Johnny Price.